All right, so welcome back to the end of week 2, beginning of week 3. Again, these are my end of the week videos to wrap up the prior week and then to get you ready for the week to come. So let's just start off with just a little bit of housekeeping. I want to start with the discussion post. First of which, excellent job with the discussion post. That's exactly what I'm looking for. I love how you really elaborated and supported your thinking with the text and other experiences that you're having. I love to see the responses to those posts were critical in nature as well, where you were maybe asking each other questions, asking even me questions if you needed to about certain ideas that you had, responding and extending each other's thinking, maybe being a little critical at times and saying, I don't know if that's going to work. That's what we need to do. Whether this class is online or face-to-face, this is the purpose of the class, to build a philosophy of a classroom management. And that's what the discussions are meant to do, to get you thinking about how you see classroom management working, to support your thinking with research, and then to really just Socratically, in a way like a Socratic seminar, hash it out and really come away from the discussion with a really either solid idea about your own thinking, or maybe have your thinking changed a little bit through the discussion, and that's perfect. So that by the end of the semester you really feel strongly about your philosophy on how you're going to manage a classroom. So discussion posts were excellent. Keep it up. Again, I'm just going to be an active participant, meaning I may not respond to everybody. If I am responding, I'm just responding as part of the discussion. I'm getting you to think about other things. I'm asking follow-up questions. I may be challenging your thinking to get you to think further. And if I didn't respond to your post, honestly, it was just kind of me shaking my head saying, yeah, dead on. Nothing really to respond to that. And if I did respond to your post, it doesn't mean like, oh man, they're awful and I'm going in. It was just, hey, you rose a good point. I want you to think about this. Or I may wanted to highlight what you said for the rest of the class because I thought it was an excellent point. So I'm hoping that discussion helps. As always, give me feedback if it's not. If you need more, I'm building the class as I go. Second, grades. I posted grades this weekend. If you can't see them in Web Campus, please let me know. I would hate for you to get to the end of the semester and say, what's my grade? What am I doing? Am I doing well? Am I not? So please let me know if that was not posted. So let's talk about the discussion. I'm trying to keep myself brief here so you don't have to watch a very long video. I got to see philosophies emerge, and I loved that. One person in the discussion, and I apologize, I'm going to get better with names. You're going to be like this too in your own classroom. They mentioned that they had 2 mentor teachers, one that was very strict and one that was very laid back. But to this person, it seemed like both philosophies seemed to work, or both management styles, I should say, worked very well for them. That's the point of this class. Not everything you read is necessarily going to be what you do. Your job is to kind of grapple with these ideas and develop what you think your philosophy is about classroom management. So I'm starting to see that happen. I see some of you think one way, think a different way, and both could be absolutely right. I saw some posts where people were saying, well, I don't know if this is right. I'm throwing that out. That's good too. You're thinking about how you view classroom management and you're building your philosophy. By the end of this class, you should have a really strong idea about how you think philosophy, or how you think, classroom management should be. But keep in mind, even myself, later here in my career, my philosophy is changing too. It changed a little bit this week. When I moved back to Las Vegas from Idaho, I was put back into a middle school. I've been teaching high school for years, and the middle school setting was a little bit different than I was used to, and some of the other dynamics there. And so my philosophy of management changed extremely from how I used to manage a high school classroom to now how I was going to manage this particular classroom. So it's okay. Philosophies will change, but the goal is hopefully that you have a really good, strong philosophy supported by research by the end of this semester, and that you feel very confident to go into your class and implement that to make your class run smoothly. So great job there. Question number 2 talked a lot about instruction and classroom management, and I think a lot of you hit that dead on, that you realize that your instruction does affect the behavior and that you need to be aware of that. 2 things I want to extend your thinking on. Number 1, group work. I'm a very group work oriented student, or teacher. My students are learning in that setting, not always, but typically a lot of the times in an English classroom. And you may start to see that in terms of new instructional kind of approaches as we move now into this phase of education, that a lot of principals and other teachers teach that way too, with a little group work, sharing, discussing type of Socratic ways of teaching. How do you manage that? How are you going to manage a group setting? Your instruction is going to look a lot different in a group, or your instruction is group setting, and so your management needs to coincide with that. Again, that middle school example, I had to teach a 2-hour English block for 7th graders. That's a different setting, and that takes a lot of special skills to be able to manage a class that way. And how are you going to go about instructing a class in a 2-hour setting? How are you going to instruct a class in a 90-minute setting at the high school where they have some blocks sometimes? So just be thinking about those things. I'm going to give instruction in this way, and what are the management techniques that go along with it? So keep those in mind as you try to make these connections. Manning and Buki are going to bring it up a lot more throughout the chapter, so hopefully you'll start to build that idea a little bit more. Finally, the case study. I think a lot of you responded in an excellent way. It was getting you to get your philosophy kind of, I wanted to put that philosophy at the forefront of your mind. So how would I handle a situation like this to get you to start thinking about what is my philosophy? I handled it. I'm sure a lot of you are concerned. I know I had, or interested. I had one student that emailed because he was more interested and wanted to know as well. I handled a lot the similar manner that the way you did. I addressed the student directly right off the bat and asked him why he thought it was fake and to get that out of him right off the bat. The reason I did that is because I wanted to send a message. I wanted to send a very clear message to the entire class that every voice mattered and that I respected every voice and that I wanted that voice to come out clear. And I wanted to have that issue solved in a very respectful manner. And it worked. And this student in particular had had some situations prior that I've come to learn where a social contract was not upheld by the teacher nor the students, and he just didn't see it as a very beneficial tool, and he just honestly thought it was a waste of time. And as he was a senior, he was getting to that point. He was also one of those students that just like to press the boundaries a little bit. Are you really going to do what you say you're going to do? Because in the past, people aren't always consistent as they say they're going to be. So, and I appreciate that, and I wanted him to know right off the bat what I was doing was building trust with him and the rest of the class. Now, we need to be careful at allowing that to happen all the time, because on the other hand, I just gave that student power. I just gave that student the permission and privilege to distract the class and do those kind of things. So I needed to address that with him as well, that there's a way, instead of just blurting out in a very negative way, to get my attention. And that I didn't want to send the message to the students that, oh, you can do that whenever you want, because that's not what I want. So there's a delicate balance there. We have to be careful how we handle it. Sending a student out of class to the dean sometimes you just have to do it. And I can tell you, I can count maybe on one hand the times I did have to do it, and it's just necessary. You have to protect the other kids in the class. But typically there's a lot of techniques you can do to make that not happen. Now, when you send a student away, you need to realize that if the dean's taking care of the issue, then the dean now has the authority, and the authority has just been taken from you. And so now that particular student may feel, well, I respect the dean, but I don't respect you. And so you need to make sure you get that respect back, and that you try to regain that trust and respect with that student and help them understand that you want to have a good working relationship and that you do have authority. And in that case, the only reason why the student was sent out is because you needed to do your job, which was teach, and you needed to address that student or allow that student to I guess, solve their problems in another way with another person. I didn't articulate that well. I'm going to bring this up a lot more, but just be careful about shifting your authority away. I guess that's the point I'm trying to make. So as you consider more case studies, just be thinking about different angles. That's basically my goal. It's okay to handle it the way that I handled it. It's okay to handle another way too, but as long as you can justify why is what I'm trying to get at. Okay, two other things. Proximity. That was the technique that the two authors talked about where, they kind of said, well, standing close to a student is invading their personal space and can be bad. I'm going to disagree. I'm going to be a little critical of that. I think it's an excellent strategy, and I don't want you to walk away from this class thinking it's not an excellent strategy. I did it this week 3 or 4 times where I'm up giving some very quick, short, direct instruction to the students, and I have a couple students that are talking when they shouldn't be. And so my first and foremost thing is I want to keep that third objective in mind that we talked about last week, the 4 purposes of classroom management. I want to have a smooth class. And instead of stopping my instruction, addressing the student, and now making my class instruction not smooth, very static, like broken up at this point, I use proximity to keep my instruction going. So I'm having this instruction, I'm talking to my students as I'm walking over to the student who seems to be talking while I'm talking. Typically, that squashes that behavior because the students recognize that you as the teacher are aware that they're talking and you need them to stop. Now, there are always those moments where the students continue to do so, and you can do hand cues like, hey, like while you're talking, hey class, so in the next second we're going to be, and I could be giving my hand cue to this student over here. And then unfortunately, if that doesn't work, then you can always, place a hand on the desk as a cue. And then, of course, the last scenario would be maybe try to finish up your instruction real quick and then address the student, or you may just have to stop and say, hey, I need you to be with me for a sec, and then get back onto instruction. So I just don't want you to walk away from the class thinking proximity doesn't work. Last on the discussions was the APA formatting. For the most part, all of you did really well. There were still some very, very minor mistakes. And I want to make sure that you understand that. I'm a little bit more laid back in that way, but I know other professors and classes you may have, they may be very stringent on formatting, and so I want to make sure you have that knowledge, that you're just prepared and equipped. So I did send some personal emails. I didn't get a chance to do all the ones that I would have liked to, simply because there were just issues where there was just minor mistakes, I would say, in most of the posts, and I want to make sure I address those. So instead of addressing personal emails, I'm going to just make one more time a sheet, a little reference sheet for how do I use APA format if I paraphrase an author, how do I use APA format when I directly cite the author. Those are where I saw the issues. I'm going to give you examples, and then this week I'm hoping to see the problem minimize a little bit, and if there are issues still, I will send those feedback emails. Okay, so let's move into this week. So discussion post questions as normal. You're going to read chapter 3. You're going to now be introduced, as we will be for the rest of this semester, to theories. Philosophies typically, but theories. People who have come up with ideas and theories that seem to work in the classroom about how to approach student behavior and classroom management. As always in your discussion posts, talk about what you think, ask questions of me and your peers, be critical, be applicable, talk about how you may see this work. So those are the kinds of things I want to see. In terms of being critical, the question I'm going to ask this week is which philosophies or which theories do you seem to agree with, and which ones do you not, and why? And make sure you can just justify that through the text and through experiences you're having in your practicums and other experiences you're having. Now, the last assignment is the teacher observation assignment. I'm tweaking this a little bit, and I'm modeling now another management strategy, because you're going to walk into a class and your projector is going to blow up, your PowerPoint's not going to be saved. These are technology issues. You're going to have things in your lesson that you thought were going to work really well that aren't going to work. And so with that being said, I'm changing this assignment just to show you that you can do that and help making it work better for you. So originally what my goal was for this was to show you a video that showed a problem in the classroom, and then having you use the theories to solve that problem so that you start to basically apply these theories to the classroom. Now, unfortunately, the problem was I couldn't find, in my opinion, good enough videos to do that. And so here's how I'm going to change this. So most of you, the nice thing is you're in the classroom already. You're doing your practicum experience or your guest teaching. For those of you that aren't, I'm going to give you another vignette, a case study to examine instead of being actually in a classroom. And these case studies will be very close to situations that you will be exposed to in the classroom. So your assignment is an additional discussion post, but they'll be in the same one, is to respond to that particular situation using the theories that you learned this week. So let me give you an example. If you're in the practicum or if you're in the classroom right now, let's say you're noticing this week, you see a behavior where, while the teacher's talking, there's just kids that are talking while she's talking. So how would I handle that in light of these new theories that I've just learned this week? So you're going to learn about Skinner. Skinner was a behaviorist. His philosophy of his theory of how you can manage classroom had to do a lot with positive behavior reinforcement or positive reinforcement of behavior. So you're in the classroom, you see a student talking. Maybe a way to solve it according to Skinner's theory would say, and you're going to read this, where you can do some positive reinforcement of a good behavior or try to positively reinforce the good behavior. He did it through, incentives, external motivation kind of thing, where you would say, hey, whoever gets to finish this assignment, we'll be able to have a homework pass, or we'll get a piece of candy, or, whatever the extrinsic reward is, and that would be motivating and positive enough for students to correct their behavior. In the talking situation, he may have said something like, well, I notice, Jake's over here talking, and I notice other students in the class aren't, so I'm going to point out the ones that aren't talking and hoping to influence Jake from not talking. So Jake's over here talking, and I turn to Dan. Hey, Dan, thank you so much, and I say this audibly, thank you so much for not talking while I was talking. You're doing a great job. Now, because that was positive, Dan feels really good. What's great is hopefully Jake wants to feel that too, according to Skinner, and Jake will stop talking in order to get that praise. And as soon as Jake's done talking, then you should address that. Hey, Jake, nice job. You're doing a great job too. And there's that positive reinforcement. So that's the whole purpose of that assignment, was to get you thinking about how can I apply these theories to the classroom. I don't want you just walking away saying, well, theories, they're just all up here and they don't apply to anything. Because sometimes we do walk away feeling that. But I really want you to walk away feeling like, man, these theories do apply to the classroom. And then more importantly, I want to use this theory or I don't want to use this theory, and you have reasons why. So that's the goal. So again, trying to be less long-winded, but I hope that was clear enough and that you were able to understand what you have going on this upcoming week. As always, if you have questions, please email me. I had a few students this week call me. Any of those work? I want to meet your needs. Give me feedback if anything's not working or if you need more, and I look forward to a great week. Thanks.